the perfect seat for each person is so individual. Sometimes we have tight hips, and some people have tight knees, and it can change from day to day as well. So I'm going to introduce some tools for seats in meditation and pranayama. One is a really nice cushion, maybe a round cushion. Another would be a blanket. And next, blocks. One block would be sufficient. So for now, let's talk about what it looks like when you know you need some support for your seat. So if I'm seated and my back is round and I'm rolling back into my tailbone, or I'm seated and my knees rise higher than my hips, these are both very good indicators that I probably need some support for my seat. So what happens when you're rounding and your knees are lifting? Look what's happening to my abdominal area. My diaphragm cannot rise and fall sufficiently for my seated pose, for my pranayama practice in my seated pose. And so I'm not going to get the full access to lung capacity, right? Also, the spine is rounded. So you're blocking your chakras, you're blocking the energy flow in the spinal column, in the sushumna, the main energy channel in the subtle body. So what we want to do is we want to find a way to get you up so that you're on your sits bones, not in your tailbone. Now this can look like look a little bit different for everybody. One really great option is a block, and I'm staying sideways so you can kind of see what happens to the pelvis. So in the block, you tilt the pelvis forward and you get a lot more space in the abdomen area and the chest area because you've tilted that pelvis forward and you've opened everything here versus way back here where everything is compressed. So what does that look like from the front? I'll show you. Nice big open space versus rounded back, pelvis tilting back. So a block is one good option. Sometimes with a block, still people might have lifted knees. So maybe with your block, you have lifted knees. What you can do here is put a block under each knee. So you might need 3 blocks, one to sit on, and one for each knee, here or here. All right, let's talk about, before we get into some seated poses, let's talk about use of the blanket. So with the blanket, we don't sit on the whole blanket. We sit at the very front, maybe quarter of the blanket. That'll help tilt your pelvis forward. So if I were to sit on the whole thing, it would just be sitting a little bit higher and I could still roll back into the tailbone. But if I lift up and pull the muscles from the sits bones and sit at the very edge, as you can see, of the blanket, it tilts the pelvis forward and gives me space in the abdominal area. Okay, another excellent option is Zophone, the beautiful meditation pillow, any kind of round, big, soft, cushy pillow. And again, I'm at the very front of it, as you can see. I'm not sitting on the whole thing. You could, I'll turn around to face you, you could support yourself on the meditation pillow and blocks, and that's very comfortable for me right now. Okay, let's talk about now the seat. So there are so many seated options. Basically, it's important to be comfortable and to have space to breathe in meditation and in pranayama practices. So one of the seats that I like is called Sukhasana. And Sukhasana means joyful or comfortable pose. Sukha means comfortable. You take one foot and put it under the outer shin. The other foot rests under the outer shin of the opposite leg so that you're supporting your lower legs on your feet. Now that might feel too tight. It might feel comfortable in the spine, in the pelvis, but it may not feel comfortable here. So you could keep this pose and put blocks underneath. That's always an option. right? So that they're supported, so they're not dangling in the air. Anytime they feel like they're dangling in the air and you're out of your pain-free range of motion, you know it's time to change your position. Okay, the next option that I like is called Siddhasana. Siddhas are accomplishments. So this is the enlightened pose or the accomplished pose. But we bring the left heel in towards the groin and tuck the right foot on top, or in between actually, the calf of the left foot and the back of the thigh, so that your ankles are resting one on top of the other. And I like this one too. Sometimes people have complained to me that they feel the ankle bone pressing into the other foot. So you could put a little towel here. That would be very useful as well. And this is called Siddhasana. It really tilts the pelvis forward. So it gets you lots and lots of side body space, chest space, open heart, nice straight spine. Siddhasana. Two more options. One is Vajrasana. Vajrasana is not appropriate if you have knee flexion issues. So if your knees don't close, don't bend deeply, then this won't be for you. You could take your meditation pillow and set it between your heels and your bottom. That gives you some space here. You could put that pillow there after putting a blanket here so that your knees don't bend deeply, and then put your pillow here. That's a nice option. And sometimes people complain to me that it feels painful to have the tops of their feet and their ankles on the floor. So you could put the blanket under your feet if you had no problem with knee flexion issues. So this is an excellent posture for pranayama and for meditation. The spine is very straight and there's abundance of space in the torso for breathing, for the diaphragm to rise and fall freely without obstruction. Okay, then there is one more that I love, and depending on how long I'm staying in the practice, I will choose it. I could probably stay in it 10, 15 minutes comfortably, then my knees start to get grumpy. But this is Padmasana. So Padmasana is bringing the left foot in and taking the right heel, aiming towards your navel, and then taking it over to place it on the left thigh. Now, stretch your left leg in front, right knee comes down. You want to lift the left foot, lean back, and pull it towards you so that you just get a hinge action here on the knee, not a hinge and a lift, right? Just the hinge on the knee. Let me show you that again. You lift from the hip, and then you pull the heel in so the knee is hinging. And this is Padmasana. I'll show you here. Padmasana, one foot on top of each thigh, and you press the knees together. The beauty of this posture is that it is impossible to slump, and there's lots and lots of space because your legs are pressing down or the feet are pressing down the thighs. So that's a very nice position as well. So this gives you some postures for seated meditation and pranayama. Don't forget, a chair is always a wonderful option as well, and leaning against a wall slightly or strengthening and lengthening the spine against a wall is a very good option as well. Om Shanti.